So today I'm off to the press view of the Rosettis at Tate Britain, just strolling over Vauxhall Bridge here in London, over to the Tate Britain, which is just over there. So the Rosettis, are they relevant 2023? Sort of, romanticised, doomed sort of poets slash painters. Yeah, so this major new exhibition will chart the radical life and work of Dante Gabriel, Christina and Elizabeth Siddal Rossetti, showcasing their revolutionary approach to life, love and art. Anyway, let's see. Is it still revolutionary? So here we are, Tate Britain. I rather like Tate Britain. I think it's kind of cool and chilled. And let's head in. Okay, so I've just got inside the Rosettis. I'll give you a little glimpse of it. It's not quite what I expected so far. You just got lots of green walls and tiny pictures. And just have a little stroll through it and give you a vibe before we, as in, when I say vibe, I mean give you an overview of what the exhibition looks like, so you just get a little feel of it before we delve in. There you go, so it's actually quite big, isn't it? We haven't got any huge paintings in here, not yet anyway. We'll go right down the end as we go along, but yeah, this is the first thing that's really blown my mind is in this very grey bit with all the writing here, you've got these like circles on the floor. That's really weird. You think you're going completely mad because when you tread on the circle, something starts speaking to you from the ceiling. It's like you stand here. Don't know if you can hear that, but it's really weird. Suddenly you can hear this stuff just talking to you. Oh man, there's a dog. That is so cool. I wish I'd known. I would have brought my dog as well. So their parents were scholars of Italian heritage and encouraged them to write and do all sorts of crazy art stuff. This first room is just full of stuff on the wall. I remember doing these poems actually when I was at Bristol University doing an English literature degree. Quite strange though for an art exhibition. It's really going on about the poems so far. But yeah, I've got this fantastic painting here. Dante Gabriel Rossetti. Gabriel's first three oil paintings portrayed his sister Christina. They reflect their conversations through her troubled teenage years. Didn't know that. Anyway, look, a cool picture that one, isn't it? Really, really good, mad painting. So as we said, are these things still relevant today? Interesting discussion. I mean, we'll chit-chat about that as we go around. Such an unbelievably well-behaved little doggy, that. I'm not sure Jeff would be quite behaved as that if he was here. It's interesting, they describe this one as fiercely original. So I suppose it could be she looks terribly frightened, Mary, in that image. Oh, that's quite cool actually, look at that. That's a study for that one over there. It's quite intriguing. With the face blurred out, I wonder if that's intentional or not, but it looks kind of freaky like that. Kind of disturbing. This is the third picture in the first room, which is pretty cool. The other thing I was going to say that's quite interesting about these pictures is that, they're very detailed, very perfect. I remember when I got to art school, everybody loved these kind of romanticised and neatly perfected drawings, and I think that's quite a classic thing that people turn out to art school loving these sort of romantic paintings, and then art school spends years grinding that out of them, so they like things that are looser. Is that right or wrong? Who knows? Portrait of the young Dante Gabriel Rossetti seated in an armchair by Filippo Menzel. So far, exhibitions, nothing like I expected, but quite curious. The second room chats about Gabriel Dante Rossetti wasn't sure if he was going to be a poet or a painter, as he had a flair for both. It's funny, isn't it, how it says that, he was like artists outside of the establishment, such as William Blake, which of course now he's kind of full establishment. You got these contrasting drawings though, which are a bit kind of crazy. From Dante's Inferno. Well, actually quite good, that drawing. Girl walking or flying, that's cool. Yeah, you've got a weird sort of strange drama to it. I like it, it's got a metaphysical, weirdly disturbing thing. Women on a bed and figure of disturbing. The story shows Mephistopheles, supernatural servant of the devil, appearing to Margaret, led to kill her mother and brother. Didn't know that. Intriguing. Retro me, Sathander. Get thee behind me, Satan. And I like the sort of weird figure on the right hand side with that sort of strange macabre feel to it. This one though, this is much more what I would have thought as Rossetti. Although maybe without those weird people in the window peering through. Edgar Allan Poe they were reading. They shared his fascination with love's ability to dissolve the borders between life and death. Intriguing. The Raven Angel Footfalls. It's more of a sketch, that one. Quite good though. Rolls of Angels. This is good as well. It's got a really weird ghostly vibe to it on the left hand side. Can't work out if this is inspired by Edgar Allan Poe, but quite possibly. Oh man, is that an actual manuscript with this weird writing? Look at that, all so tiny and organised. So room 3, Pre-Raphaelite revolutionary years. The champion revolution through art. Sounds good. They didn't like the state-sponsored Royal Academy and its reliance on older master styles, and they founded the Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood. Look at these things. So defined little pictures. I think what's quite nice about them is they've got a real Elizabeth Siddal or Lady of Shalott. Oh, they loved all those kind of Lady of Shalott poems. They've got quite a focus because they had that sort of Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood. Much more focused than, I suppose, art today is so much more focused on money and success as opposed to actually trying to do anything important. Which is intriguing, as you would begin to say that maybe this exhibition is more relevant for 2023 than you'd have thought. Especially the other room I thought was actually quite interesting with the pictures by Dante Gabriel Rossetti, which were more sort of, what do you say, spiritual in a way. The place is so unspiritual at the moment that maybe it's quite good to have a bit of injection of otherworldliness. They're quite strange, these paintings. This is Gabriel's first Pre-Raphaelite painting and his first double work of art, appearing a poem and a picture of the same name. What I did like about it is the floating halos and the weird guy in the garden. The weird guy in the garden just puts a strange sense onto the whole thing. Plus the girl in the corner is looking weirdly into the distance. Quite interesting actually. What I didn't realise is that their father devoted his life to translating and teaching Dante. And that's why Dante Gabriel Rossetti took Dante's first name as his own, which is slightly insane. And what they loved about Dante was his I hope I go over it. He was an artist searching for beauty, love and truth in a materialistic world, which I think is quite relevant for today. This exhibition goes on for absolutely miles. There's masses of pictures and masses of rooms, which is quite intriguing. All these sort of extraordinary pictures. I can't quite work out how they all fit together, really. Mary Magdalene at the door of Simon the Pharisee. What a mad detail on that. Ink on paper. So these are some other of Dante Gabriel's paintings. These ones I actually like these as much as the other ones. Watercolour on paper. Oh, maybe it's the watercolour. I may just not like the watercolour as much. This is also a watercolour. But this one's rather good. One of Elizabeth Siddal. Simple and striking. They really managed to get a real depth of colour into these watercolours. Almost got a pointless kind of river in the back there. I've got to say, actually, quite the story's quite interesting. This one's about Dante's Allegori's autobiographical account of an emotional and spiritual journey. His love for Beatrice. They met briefly in childhood and saw each other twice more before she died at the age of 25. Dante's devotion was a private and creative act of imagination in which Beatrice was his muse. Intriguing. A tragic love story inspired Gabriel's poems, drawings and paintings for the rest of his career. Impressive. So that, I suppose, does that give you more of a sense of this room? Can't quite get a sort of cohesive journey through it, but what I do like, I love it when you've got two pictures slightly different. Look at this sort of darker one here, and then this brighter version of it. They're amazingly similar. I think that must just be a earlier version that was not finished. And you've got minor differences. Top left-hand corner, you've got rid of the bars, and that's turned into a sort of cannon/chimney on the ground. So he never finished this work, actually. So it's potentially the choice between death and redemption, which I guess is what he's trying to depict. May have felt too moralising, especially after he became friends with Fanny Cornforth. I'm not quite sure of the details of Fanny Cornforth, but they must have been, I would assume, a woman he became involved with. Quite interesting, actually, though he never finished this picture. He spent absolutely ages on it, doing little drawings, all sorts of things about it. It's quite intriguing. In that these days you get the feeling most people just bash out picture after picture after picture instead of, spending ages dwelling on them and then abandoning them. Intriguing, different way of doing stuff. I do like this picture over here, this drawing, which most of this room seems to be about women who had sold sex to men and found redemption through love of a different kind, or love of Jesus here. That's what this picture's about. And Gabriel analysed the relationship between these two kinds of love in his work. One of his most elaborate drawings is, but it's an interesting drawing. Doesn't really look like a drawing, actually. Ink on paper. But most of this room seems to sort of allude to this kind of women who sold sex for money. Oh, this is Fanny Cornforth that they were mentioning before. So Fanny Cornforth was a model and working class woman, and I think his friendship with her changed his views on a lot of these things. They seem to be quite progressive about defending and helping women, which is intriguing. This is a really cool painting, isn't it? It's almost got a that lovely sort of whiteness to the skin. It's also got that wistful sort of look to it. It said it's an early example of Gabriel's mature style and the ideas of the aesthetic movement. Yes, the Rosettis explore the ambiguities of love in a materialistic age, where relationships were distorted by wealth, class, and status. And women were coerced into marriage or seduced to lust as outcasts. Intriguing. Actually, do seem genuinely quite progressive in what they were trying to do. Let's stroll on into here. Room 4, medieval modern. This room seems to be about how Gabriel and Elizabeth Siddal worked together in his studio and had a great influence on each other's work. Their pattern drawings and watercolours conjure complex, imaginative worlds. Collectors would vie to purchase the inventive scenes of both artists. Everything's quite small in this room. Quite intriguing. We'll look at a couple of these. So that's Rossetti, Elizabeth Siddal reading. The whole thing does seem to be fully obsessed with Dante as well. Also a really weird picture. Look at that huge diagonal right across the centre of it. Quite radical, huh? And then look, even here, actually, you've still got the diagonal. You've got the diagonal on this drawing. That's Elizabeth Siddal. Sir Galahad and the Holy Grail. Oh wow, that's cool. That's on Tennyson's poem, that one's based on. I love the two angels, they're sort of jagged and extraordinary. Interesting, some of these words are quite small, some are quite big. This is, I get the feeling this is meant to be more of a sort of sketch section in here. Look at these, I love these sort of floating figures. Look at that, the lovely greens in that. Slightly confused sometimes about which picture the information is relating to. I'm assuming this is Elizabeth and Siddal, La Belle Dame sans Merci, or Sister Helen. Sister Helen must be this drawing here. Look at that, so that's got a nice contemporary drawing. Just simple, thin shapes. Look at these, I love the way this one is. It's got a much darker drawing in the centre of it. Look at this teeny thing. Completely minute, this one here. Absolutely tiny. Oh wow, I like this sort of seashore. Oh, look at it, I love these. The Macbeths. That's really cool. That's really cool. So this is Elizabeth and Siddal. I love it. The three Scottish subjects on this wall show Elizabeth and Gabriel exploring relationships at moments of crisis. I love it. Macbeth is a cracking choice. Clark Saunders. Oh, the night Clark Saunders has been discovered in bed with his betrothed, May Margaret. They kill him, and she wakes in his arms to find him dead. Here, the kiss is a fateful moment of love, inspiration, and transcendence. Oh, really cool, these things. I'm actually really quite getting into this exhibition. Weirdly enough, I didn't think it would do anything really amazing, but strangely enough, it's almost like you really could do with getting back to this vibe of, you know, something transcendent instead of everything grinded down around you with like cost of living crisis. Look at this room. You've got some crazy furniture in here as well, which is a bit of fun. Room 5 talks about how the Rosettis invented new ways to live and love, which they reflected in their home environments. Although they shared many prejudices of the Victorian age, they aligned themselves with progressive ideas such as women's rights and social reform. Some of them seem to say single while Gabriel and Elizabeth wed and set up home together. Like several others in their group, they came from different social classes, which was unusual for the times. So Gabriel is still exploring love through Dante Alighieri's medieval poem, The New Life. When newlyweds Jane and William Morris moved into their home, the Red House, Gabriel made them 3 medieval-style panels to decorate a seat. Quite sure where these panels are, but quite intriguing, this room. And you've got these weird blue sort of trees painted all around it. It's the kind of experience of being in here. It's quite strange. Is this meant to be one of the panels? I can't quite tell. Oh yes, I think this is meant to be the central panel. In the centre, a winged figure of love holds a sundial symbolising time, loss and eternity. Oh, and Christ looks down from a radiating sun. Yeah, so this is one of those panels, I think. Intriguing. Quite sure what this here is meant to be. Yeah, so it says the conspicuous consumption that typified fashionable Victorian interior design did not suit Elizabeth and Gabriel's idea of a more authentic life. They sought out adapted furniture that was basic and true to its materials and methods of making. They found beauty in handcraft rather than elaborate ornamentation and liked open, gracefully turned wood. Interesting. What if all their theories spread through every part of their existence, which is quite interesting. Oh, look at these beautiful little pictures on the back of the chair. Quite intriguing. Seems to be also Gabriel was a founding partner in Morris Marshall Faulkner & Co., which made and marketed designs such as the Rossetti chair. I think that is this chair over there in the corner. Sort of rush chair. Didn't realise they had quite such a sort of entrepreneurial spirit to themselves. Quite intriguing. Let's have a quick look at the pictures in this room because the death of Elizabeth Siddal. Okay, yes, so few people's deaths have been so mythologized as Elizabeth's. On 11th of Feb 1862, she and Gabriel dined out before he went to teach at the Workingmen's College. On his return, he found her unconscious with an empty bottle of laudanum beside her. The doctor treated her, but she died the following morning. Elizabeth was one of the many Victorians who lived with a dependency on laudanum, a mixture of opium and alcohol. Opiates were cheap and freely available due to lucrative poppy cultivation and trade encouraged by the British Empire. Elizabeth's life and death became part of Gabriel's art. She was better remembered in his stories as a tragic muse rather than an artist and a poet. It would be 130 years before an exhibition was devoted to her work alone. It's actually really interesting. I didn't know that at all. Quite fascinating. So I suppose this exhibition particularly focuses on a lot of her pieces. Because, yeah, she does become that sort of tragic muse as opposed to an artist in her own right. Very interesting. These pictures are still quite strange. Look at these teeny little things up there. Elizabeth, Eleanor Siddal, Madonna and Child, watercolour and pencil on paper. It's a really cool little picture of that. It's just so neat and tiny. There's room 6, Venus surrounded by mirrors. Gabriel's late paintings cast working-class models in fantasies far from their modern world. This room presents studies of the people who pose for the beloved. What I have to say when you actually just glimpse through here is these drawings are so kind of contemporary. You do get these in the fantastic drawings, you do get these very kind of contemporary feel off them. Quite interesting. Has that kind of very careful feeling to them. And then of course this drawing then ends up in this painting here. It's intriguing. This is the beloved illustrates lines from the Bible. Intriguing. Got other drawings around here. A study for the bridesmaid. Oh yes, that one ends up in the top right hand corner. And that one is the centre. Oh, interesting. Least is known about the woman in the centre. A bright, irresistible face inspired him to cast her as the bride. Quite an intriguing photograph here of the picture before it's finished. It looks weirdly more realistic than the finished piece, which has a more kind of romanticised feel to it. Once again, this whole room really just shows you how long he spent on making that one painting and how much he thought about it. Which, yeah, you don't really get so much today. This room is obviously quite dramatic. Poetic portraits. You've got all sorts of intriguing pieces in here. That's a good one, isn't it? By the time they reached their 30s and 40s, the Rossetti's work had won them some financial security and growing fame. Christina became a celebrity after publishing Goblin Market and other poems, and William worked as a leading critic and editor. Gabriel found success away from the mainstream, displaying work in alternative exhibition spaces and selling to private enthusiasts. What I didn't know was quite interesting is Gabriel went on to lead a new avant-garde group even more influential than the Pre-Raphaelites, the aesthetic movement. This would change ideas, art and design for the second time. A bit of a cracker, all these extraordinary pictures. Gay siren. Gabriel was interested in giving poetry and painting the qualities of music. He wrote a verse to be set to music called The Doom of the Sirens. Intriguing. Look at that, Monavana. One of Gabriel's most celebrated double works. Investigates sensual bodily beauty. Reflects Gabriel's enthusiasm for the opulent fabrics. Venus Verticordia. So these are his aesthetic portraits of his work. Many of these began as images of Venus, the Roman goddess of love. Gabriel's idea of two kinds of beauty is reflected in the two models. Venus's face is a likeness of Alexa Wilding, but the model for the body is only recorded as a cook. Don't quite understand what that means. So I think what it means is he actually used two people, one for the head and one for the body. And this one's also interesting, and he stuck bits of extra canvas on to sort out the shape. Quite intriguing how much he really fiddled with these things to get what he wanted. These are cracking paintings, obviously. La Chiladada. The garland lazy plays a harp that is carved, inlaid and decorated with flowers, blending the beauty of art and nature. His new sumptuous paintings were prized by wealthy collectors. Collector Frederick Lamb displayed 5 of them in his drawing room. Oh man, you can see that there. It's actually quite interesting. They would have appeared at the time. Oh, this one's so famous, isn't it? With the, what is that she's eating? These works were hung in the drawing room as we just saw there. Shown here for the first time together since. They explore the beauty of pattern, shape, and a narrow colour palette. They are predominantly greens. They present the likeness of Jane Morris. The relationship between memory and loss. And these are good and striking pictures, aren't they? Quite fascinating. Veronica Veronese. The likeness of Alexa Wilding was conceived as a variation of La Gladata. Alludes to the art of Venice and exhibits the opulence of high Renaissance painting. I love the way she's holding that violin. That's such a nice detail. These are bigger and quite different to the other paintings, aren't they? You can see why they said this movement was more dramatic than the others, because it really is, in some ways. Alexa Wilding is the mythic Princess Andromeda. Not entirely sure who Alexa Wilding is at this point. Very interesting, these paintings. What I find is there's more and more information. Normally I'm not that interested in digging into the stuff behind the paintings, but here they do seem to give you a story. That's quite intriguing, because you can almost see how here you've got like a study with a snake, but then it seems to turn into a hare, which is rather clever. Gabriel described this painting as a modern version of Lilith hanging nearby. Explores sensual love and what he sometimes saw as a perilous principle in the world, being female from the first. He connected her to new women of his time who were campaigning for more equal rights. And then suddenly you got this tiny little picture like the other ones. Intriguing how it swings from one to another. Okay, so the aesthetic movement ideal as art for art's sake and body beauty. And Alexa Wilding was the adapted likeness of working class women of unconventional appearance, notably model Alexa Wilding into fantasies of femininity. So I guess she wasn't meant to be an unconventional looking working class woman. You got these little cool books in here as well. This is what I think is the last actual room as such, and then there's a film through the obsession. Gabriel's final years were dominated by his love and friendship with Jane Morris, 18 years old domestic worker, when Gabriel met her outside a theatre and asked her to pose as Queen Guinevere. Shared a house in Oxfordshire. They became lovers in the early 1970s. Her presence haunted his work. And Jane's role in Gabriel's last major paintings was little known during his increasingly reclusive lifetime. Oh, these are good, these pictures, aren't they? Realise just how weird. Oh, that's actually chalk or pastel on paper. Quite intriguing, actually. That is actually stunningly good as far as just one kind of colour. The simplicity to the tonality. It's actually a really good painting. And that subtle sophistication of the colour. Oh man, they've all got this kind of red vibe, haven't they? Death in the Rosettis. Great sword there, I like it. Joan of Arc. Oh, Proserpine. These are cracking pieces of work, aren't they? So, oh wait, that's one, two different versions of it. I love the different versions of the things. That one's so much more faded, this one's much more striking. Look at that hair. The hair actually glistens. Quite an extraordinary fashion. The Daydream, look at that. Classic romantic kind of vibe you'd get there. Gabriel's final paintings transfigure the bodily beauty of the natural world into soul's beauty of the spirit, through a sense of change and loss. Look at that, it's like mistily disappearing. Pastel on paper. These late ones are rather good, they're quite mystical. Yeah, it mentions here at a time when Gabriel was haunted by the retrieval of his poetry manuscript from Elizabeth's grave. I do remember watching a film where he went back and realised all his best poetry he'd put in the grave of Elizabeth Siddal. He went back, dug her up and took it out again. What a nutcase. Oh, look at these photos. That's quite intriguing as well. They're quite interesting. They've got a vibe of the whole thing. It's interesting how they live this kind of aesthetic lifestyle. Sort of fantasizing and using their imagination every day, which is rather beautiful, really. Very large from Radical Legacies, just saying how the Rosetti's legacy touches our lives through romantic fiction, TV drama, fashion, advertising, interior design, fantasy cartoons, and many more aspects of our culture. Individuality and social defiance inspire radical writers and artists to this day. We've got a big film here, which a minute ago seemed to be Dante's. That's such a cool that film, look at it. Oh man, it's Oliver Reed, I love him in his films. This must be. That's Joan of Arc, that's good actually. Right. So this is, oh I see, meant to be a comic book inspired by the Rosettis. You got that sort of detail drawing. And this must be a photograph from the series, the new Pre-Raphaelite. I think that's actually one of the things I found most satisfying about this exhibition today. You know, you got cost of living crisis, or modern art, I mean contemporary art, Damien Hirst, all that sort of stuff. It's money. And you know, living. I actually find it really quite interesting, kind of quite inspiring in a way that, everything's so broken down with the cost of living and, politicians who are seemingly corrupt, and we're all dominated by that, whereas these people were just living out this crazy, mad aesthetic life. It's almost kind of quite a needed experience, and intriguingly this exhibition hasn't been, for once, rammed into any kind of particular, normally these days they sort of ram these exhibitions into some obscure kind of modern reason for having them. It actually just seems to be quite straightforward, saying, oh look, we've got all these cool Rossetti pictures, which actually makes it dramatically better. You can actually just come and appreciate it for what it is. So I actually really enjoyed this. I think it's a really good exhibition. The best ones I've been to for a while, actually. I didn't think I would. I'm much more into that kind of impressionist, post-impressionist stuff. But I don't know. There's something quite lyrical and poetic and what would you say? Overwhelming about these pictures. They sort of lure you into their lifestyle, and it's really good. It's a really interesting exhibition, and there's a lot more in it than I knew about. The Rosettis, and I've learned a lot about them in the last hour or so I've definitely come and see it. It's a really good exhibition. So as ever, please like and subscribe both to our top 10 for more films about art exhibitions, interviews, artists, and my other channel, Travel Dog, for fun films about food and travel. Auf Wiedersehen, Bye bye.